The appointed time, and we have a quorum, and we have arranged for 2 meetings today to deal with the agenda items. At the end of this session, we will have a break of 10 minutes. The second meeting will start at 5:25. May I remind members that if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest with any of the matters under discussion today, please declare the nature of the interest before you speak in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure. And I also like to draw members' attention to the regulations in relation to voting where there is a direct pecuniary interest as per 84 of the Rules of Procedure. The first item is FCR 20. Members are asked to endorse the recommendation of the Public Works Subcommittee made on the 20th of May 2015. That is FCR FCR bracket 2015-16 bracket 20. And if members have no other questions, I will put this item to the vote. Those in favor in relation to FCR bracket 2015-16 number 20, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. I think majority of members present are in favor of this item. The item is carried. Items 2 and 3, that is FCR bracket 2015 number 11 and 12. This is a continuation of the scrutiny of the 2 items carried forward from the 29th of May. We will have a joint discussion and then the 2 items will be voted separately. The first paper is FCR bracket 2015-16 number 11. This is in relation to site formation and infrastructure work in relation to 19GB. Members are asked to enhance the authorized estimate by $8.7199 billion of money of the day prices, that is from $16.2532 billion to $24.9731 billion. And the second item is FCR bracket 15-16 number 12. This is in relation to the Liantang Hengyuai BCP and associated works, construction of BCP buildings and associated facilities. Members are invited to approve the upgrading of 13GB to Cat A at an estimated cost of $8,811.9 million money of the day prices. We have with us Mr. Hon Chi-Kung, Permanent Secretary for Development Works, Mr. Chen Chi-Ming, Deputy Secretary for Development, Mr. Cheng Tak-Ning, Project Manager, Northeast East of the CEDD, Mr. Wong Kin-po, Chief Engineer, Boundary Control Point CEDD, Mr. Stephen Tang, Deputy Director of Architectural Services, Mrs. Sylvia Lam, Project Director, Architectural Services Department, and Mr. Michael Lee, Chief Project Manager, 202. ASD. Members. Motions moved under Rule 37A of the FC procedure. Well, this should only be related to one of the items. If it involves more than one item, I will rule that it is not in order. After we have dealt with the motions moved under 37A, I will have this voted on and then follow the same procedure to deal with the other item. And if your questions is related to policy issues, you may raise these issues in a panel meeting. And members should refrain from repeating the same point or the same point raised by others. First round we had 5 minutes, second round 4 minutes, third round 3 minutes, fourth round 2 minutes, and starting from the fifth round and afterwards 1 minute each. Any questions from members? Mr. Gary Fan 10th round, 1 minute. I have a question for the administration. In 2012, in relation to the first funding application for the Liantang Yun BCP, they have made an estimate of the number of mainland visitors. It was based on the individual. It was based on multiple entry, and now this has been changed to 1 entry per week. According to the tourism sector, the number of visitors will drop, and they said it will drop by about 4 million people a year. So with the change in the weekly entry, how will it affect the Liantang BCP? Will it greatly reduce the utilization of the facilities? Mr. Cheng? When we made the assessment, we have tested different scenarios. Say, for example, multiple entry, single entry, weekly entry. So we found that the differences of the different scenario will not be more than 5 to 6%. So the weekly entry will not have a significant impact on the use of the BCP. Mr. Lam Kai-chen, speaking for the 6th time, I would like to ask you about A to F under 22. And there is a figure, 3974.7. Does it include item B, that is the geological condition, the adjustment of 698.6, or is it the case that it is a price adjustments after taking into account new cost? They are different because for the $3.9 billion increase in project cost is because over the years we noticed that prices of machinery and workers have increased. And in relation to the $600 million is because of the change in geological condition in the rock cavern, and that's the related expenditure in the project. Dr. K.K. Kwok, speaking for the 4th time, 2 minutes. I would like to ask about item 13, that is the increase in civil engineering. Heavy civil engineering works. As we see that the economy over the world is slacking, so raw material prices are actually dropping. So have you taken that into account in your estimate? What I don't want to see is that contractors will use every means to try to milk the government or the FC, using us as an ATM. So they will estimate at the highest prices, and when it comes to drop in prices, there is no corresponding adjustment. And within this year, the drop in prices in raw material and heavy engineering work. Can you tell us more about the most recent situation? Mr. Cheng, in the past few years, in our statistics, we can see that raw material prices have been increasing. Say, for example, for gravel. I'll use that as an example. 2013 cost for gravel is only $153. In 2015, it's $205 now. And for bar benders, 2013 is 1,480. Now it's 1,780 or so. So we see that for wages and raw material, they will only increase. So is there a trend that they're dropping? Mr. Chang, from the information we have, we don't see any trend that it will drop. Next, Mr. Kenneth Chung, speaking for the 7th time, 1 minute. Well, I ask about the tunneling work and the difference of that is the $698.6 million. Is now Well, the prices is 2015. So for item B, if there is further delay, say if it can't be completed in within 3 years' time, it means that there will be other adjustments because of the increase in prices. Am I right, Mr. Chang? Well, there is a possibility in works project that prices will increase and prices in the market will increase. That's why we have contingency fees built in to cater for unforeseen situations. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong speaking for the 4th time, 2 minutes. Well, when it comes to contingencies, you usually will leave 10%. Is that right? That's what you said last time, Mr. Chang. Contingencies. Usually we will cater, we will put aside about 10%. How did you work it out? Is it because if there is cost overrun or if there is delay, is always within 10%? Mr. Chang? Over the years, in our experience, we use 10% as the contingency because in general that is sufficient. After we have revised the estimate and we have assessed the risk, we think the usual rate that is 10% should be sufficient for now. But that is no longer the case. Mr. Chang, is no longer the case. Mr. Chang. In 2012, when we made a funding application, the estimate was made because we did not know about the latest situation of the market, and that's why we come back here to revise our estimate, and we still have the contingency which is set at 10%. Understand? That means the 10% contingency was to cater for inflation. Is that right? Well, you said you can't tell what the market how the market will change, and there will be other 9 major projects commencing. Did you ask for 20 to 30%? Because it's your own doing that there are other 9 mega projects, and they all have cost overrun. So well, anyway, did you try Did you try to bargain? Well, we made a funding application to cater for the change in prices. The contingency of 10% is to cater for unforeseen conditions. Dr. Kwokaki speaking for the 5th time, 1 minute. This is a white elephant project, and they try to press ahead. On 6C, it says that for every month delay, there will be an additional $30 million. And in order to expedite the project, the government will have to pay more. So if it's not political reasons, I don't see why this is an urgent project, apart from wanting to your desire to integrate with Shenzhen. Were it not for these reasons, that you would not be at the mercy of others and have to pay the increase in prices. P.S. The increase in project cost has nothing to do with the work schedule, which is very reasonable. There is a delay because at the beginning of last year we came here for a funding application, and we have to wait till now when it's actually processed. Mr. Gary Fan speaking for the 12th time, 1 minute.
路口岸香港嚟講咧係第6個。
I think this is the 6th border crossing facility. I think the cost estimate in 2008 was first made in 2008, and now it has doubled. And many people in the engineering sector is also shocked by the rising costs. Not only the wages, but also the material costs have gone up. So can the administration guarantee give us the guarantee that for this project we are forced to approve the additional funding because of the cost overrun? Will this be the last time? And going forward, will you be asking LegCo to approve additional, funding? Well, Mr. Finn, I think this question has been asked many dozen times already. I haven't asked the question myself. Many colleagues have asked the same question, and the administration has answered the same question many times. Also, they are telling us that there is no way they can give us that guarantee. Even if we were to approve this huge amount to cater for the cost overrun, they still cannot give us the undertaking. I think they've already answered the question many times already, but actually, many members have asked them the same question, hoping that they will not come for additional funding anymore. But I pray they'll give us the same answer. As the chairman said, we've answered the same question before. For the cost, for the budget that we're not applying, we cannot guarantee that we'll not come back for additional funding. Dr. Fernando Cheung, 5 minutes for your first run. Thank you. I have a question regarding the question of economic efficiency. Now, it is now envisaged that every day there will be 30,000 people and 18,000 odd vehicles using the facility. And so according to your figures, over a period of from 2018 to 2050, the economic efficiency is $64 billion based on 2014 prices. And that includes the time that is saved by passengers. You expect that each passenger will be able to save 20 minutes of the time, and also there will be savings in terms of the operations of the vehicles. Could you give us a single unit, cost that is for every passenger who would be able to save 20 minutes of the trip? How would you, monetize that amount of that? And also, because of the construction of the BCF at Lin Tong, how much savings would be made in terms of the time saved by those who drive vehicles to cross the border? I think we have to divide the passengers into different regions, and the times. I think the 20 minutes is only one. I think it's only in respect of one section. So I think we've calculated the save time that we save from in different districts and multiplied that by the time saved. Furthermore, for vehicles, there could be different types of vehicles, including trucks and private vehicles. They have different operating costs. They use different fuels. And we arrive at $64 billion after we've integrated all the figures. However complicated the arithmetic, there would be an average figure. I don't care whether you're talking about trucks or tanks. I think after you've worked out the average, you say that the operating cost, you can give us an average figure as to how much the operating cost can be saved, whether the vehicles come from Beijing or Tokyo. You should have an average figure. Could you give me that average figure, Mr. Ching? I do not have that average figure offhand. Could you give us the details as to how you arrive at the amount of $68 billion for Dr. Fernando Cheung? Yes, please give us such information for reference. First of all, please give us the formula, and also secondly, I want the average figure. We're talking about $60 billion, and of course, we're talking about a period of 32 years. When the BCF was first commissioned, the facility may not be so fully used, and the number of vehicles using the facility may be different. I just want you to give us the average figure. So you say that the trip will be reduced by 20 minutes. I'm sure this is also an average figure. So is this a reasonable projection? I think you have a duty to give us an an answer. Well, he doesn't have the information offhand, but he will provide that in writing later on. Yes. Do you have any other questions? No? Mr. James Toh, 5 minutes for your first round. Chairman, the $8.7 billion, according to paragraph 7, there are 5 reasons. First of all, the surge in construction prices. It was in 2012. Now, let me ask a simple question. The deadline for the putting in a bid was in 2013 or 2014? I'll ask a short question, and please give me a short answer. Mr. Cheng. Chairman, the first project, well, I think we invited tender in the middle of 2012. Yes. We invited tender in different stages. In paragraph 8, you say that when you apply for funding in 2012, you took into consideration the prices at up to early 2012, and in particular sectors of heavy civil engineering works and so on. For such projects, I mean, these projects normally are undertaken by the government and not the developers. Why is it that in 2012, I'm sure you have talked to the contractors, you collected information from them. So for a project like this, why did you make a mistake in terms of your projection? Was it because in the neighboring area, or perhaps in Hong Kong, the cost of constructing such viaducts and tunnels had gone up suddenly? That shouldn't have been the case. When we applied for funding in early 2012, the estimate we made was based on the information we had available at the time. In early 2012, the information we had was, of course, the cost of projects like viaducts and tunnels, which prevailed at the time, and they might not be able to, predict the surge in prices which follow. But in paragraph 8, you said that you have collected information up to early 2012, and then you call tender a few months afterwards. Why do we have such a big difference? Is it because somebody made the wrong calculation? I hope you don't mind, Chairman. Did you deliberately reduce the amount so that we had the impression that the project was not very expensive, and as a result we approved that project? I don't know whether or not other members have asked the same question. That is, comparing early 2012 and mid or late 2012, just bearing in mind that this is only the first project. Even for this one, the cost overrun was $3.9 billion. Mr. Cheng. Chairman, I'd like to reiterate again that when we made our projection, it was based on the information available at the time. The information available, we used the information available at the time to calculate, to make this prediction. And we did not have very good grasp of what the market would happen afterwards. And the bids were put in 2012, and because of the increase in prices in the following years, no, in paragraph 10 you say that starting from August 2012, the average wage cost is up by 18 to 46%. But please remember that these are all government projects, projects such as viaducts and tunnels. Why is it now? Now I have to ask this question because either the contractors collectively, squeezing you and ripping you off, or you deliberately lower the figures so the electrical would approve the estimate. Another possibility was that, or perhaps you can explain this to us, because you were the party which had commissioned most of these projects. Now, if many developers have submitted the application for consent, Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, 1 minute for your fifth round. I think you deliberately, created the demand. You knew how much the demand was, and that's why I asked whether you have consulted other parties. Was there anyone who coordinated, made the coordination? And secondly, nobody said that you should guarantee that there wouldn't be any cost overrun. The question is whether or not someone should be responsible should there be any cost overruns. In any private company, if you say that the profit is 5% and it's going to be 10% the following year, if you fail to deliver, then of course you have to step down. I'm not asking you to play God. But as an accountable official, if you made another mistake a second time, would you resign? Either you resign or your superior should resign because they are condoning you. I mean, it's a simple question. If you were in the private sector, this simply would not have been possible. James Toh. I'd like to follow up on my earlier question, because this is what you say in paragraph 10. In the middle there, you say that the average daily wages, I think the tunneling workers have lots of job opportunities. And so what I want to know is that during those 12 months, after we've approved the subsidiary legislation, and then all of a sudden you have all this demand regarding oxygen intensity, and the workers will want to move up to the ground to take, and that's why within those 10 months, it couldn't be helped that wages simply shot up, and then you don't know why. The private developers suddenly also started to build tunnels. As a result, they took away all the tunneling workers because they have lots of job opportunities. All the tunnels were actually, government projects. You should already. I mean, you were the sole, customer. So I think you should have been able to predict all that. Even for the tunneling workers, if the contractors told you that going forward wages are going to rise very rapidly, I mean, were they lying to you? I think you could ask them. You can ask the trade union for some information. It's not a trade secret. Why is there such a big gap in your estimate? Mr. Chairman, Mr. Leung Hong was saying that when for your next project, I dare not ask you to give us any guarantee, but if there are major mistakes in your past projections, then what you are telling me in paragraph 10, the next time in your FC paper you want to top it up by another $3.5 billion because you tell us that in June 2015, within those 12 months, the wages of tunnel workers have lots of job opportunities, and then wages went up. The same scenario may happen again. So how can you convince us that your estimate this time would be different from your previous estimate? Unless you admit that you made a mistake the last time because you left out 4 major indicators. So internally, whether you want to discipline someone for the mistake, I don't care. But at least you can tell us that if you told us that you made a mistake the last time, but now you're telling us that you've not made a mistake the last time, and you're telling us that 8.4 billion is okay. What happens if next time you come back and ask for another additional funding? So you have to tell us why this has happened this time. I think you were not here 2 meetings ago. I think they've already answered the same question repeatedly already. All right, I'll ask a specific question. Now, have they told us that they have left out any indicators? I can tell you that they can say that they have been queuing up for this project to be approved. A year ago, they couldn't have predicted what would have happened a year hence. So I'm saying, I know you're asking whether they are willing to admit that they are wrong. Yeah, I think you're even more direct, Chairman. Why are we here ending up with this mess? When we prepared this estimate, it was at the end of 2011 and early 2012. When we made the estimate at the time, it was based on the prevailing information at the time, including the reconstruction of the Pt1 highway and so on. Normally, this is the typical way we prepare our estimates. With the benefit of hindsight, we did not make a very good prediction of the prices which would follow. To answer Mr. To's question, whether or not the same thing will happen again in future, we've already received 90% of the bids, and therefore I can say that we'll not be coming back for additional funding because of further surge in prices. Bernardo Jiang, your second round, and you have 4 minutes. I'd like to follow up on the question regarding cost efficiencies. Where we discuss, I think we've discussed the Lintang Hanyuan Way BCF many times already, and according to the paper, there are 8 items which require funding, and this is one of those. And in the past, in our previous discussion on the question of efficiency, the government's papers tell us that on the last 2 occasions, actually at the end of last year, we had a discussion, and the figure for cost efficiency is very different from what it is now. It was they worked it out based on 2012 prices. It was 20 billion, now is 64 billion. So it's still for the same period, 2018 to 2050. Regarding the number of vehicular trips, number of passengers remain the same, 30,000 people and 17,850 vehicles. In terms of passengers and vehicle numbers, which remain the same, the period remains the same, except that we're talking about 2012 and 2014 prices. It has now gone up from $650 to $68 billion, or 28%, over a period of 4 years. Why is it that from 2010 to 2014, making this, when you made the same projection, your cost has gone up by 28%? Mr. Chang. Well, this is because to compare the question of cost efficiency, we have to, base on the same year. In the FC paper, we use the figure for 2011. We are calculating the cost efficiency, using the figures for the same year. This time, when we come here, we have to, base the comparison on the 2014 prices. So we need to use the price to reflect the different time periods, and hence the difference. Of course, I know that the year has is different, but we're talking of a difference of 3 to 4 years. It would not have been possible that inflation was 28% within a course of 3 to 4 years. The passengers have been able to save 20 minutes, and the vehicles, the drivers would be able to save some time and fuel. How is it possible that that the costs that had gone up by 28% over a period of 3 to 4 years? What savings? I think, why is it that the costs have gone up by 28%? Well, in our calculation, we did not just make calculation for those 3 years. We're talking about cost efficiency for 30 years, from 2018 to 2050, and we have to calculate the cost efficiency up to 2011, and 2011 we work out the present day value, of the future gains. Chairman, this is a constant in mathematical terms. For both items, the discounting period is the same. You say the effect is the same. The only variable is that you're using 2011 and 2014 as the basis. Number of passengers, number of vehicle trips are the same. The whole duration of the period is also the same, 30 years. No, the question is whether you have a basis to arrive at the calculation.
Mr. Chair, as I had explained just now, we're talking about the the time of commencement to 2032, and then we include the depreciation as well and come up with this result. Mr. To. Well, Mr. Chairman, well, for members of the LegCo, we would have information shared with us, including certain confidential information, and there would be confidential discussions. But then, in the past 2 years or so, there had been more instances of where LegCo members had been reminded that there were certain companies, construction companies, or construction companies of scale, which could together collude these companies in certain scenarios, and therefore treating taxpayers and the Treasury of the Hong Kong government as ATM machines. Now, I do not know for the government whether they have heard about this, or as Public Works Department, I would think you would really pay attention to this kind of practice. But looking at the paper here, it is generally true what it is saying here. If we look at paragraph 16, for instance, it says the tunnel is highly complicated and therefore there have been a lot of limitations to the works, but that was already in the original tender document. However, in the 8 months of 2012, for whatever crazy reason, it had increased by 46%. Now, mind you, the bid doesn't have to mention the reason why, but of course, when you discuss with the construction companies putting in the bill, they would complain that, oh, this is difficult and that is restrictive, etc. And then you come in for more funds, apply for more funds. Now, my question is, have you applied critical judgment to this for all these reasons proffered by the construction companies? Especially when there are not a lot of construction companies we're talking about, not that many. And can you refute the theory that you and myself have been swindled and that taxpayers or us are not being swindled for our money? So this is a kind of stance that you should adopt in looking at the bids and also in coming to the LegCo this time in answering the questions. And Mr. James To, you have allowed no time for him to answer this question, and other colleagues have asked the same question. Well, he's not been able to provide an answer. There had been other ways of asking that same question of yours. Well, I can tell you what you're asking here today in this room have been covered by other colleagues in previous sessions. Well, in 2011, when they came up with the projections, they looked at all the tenders and they came up with the projections and came to us for funding. And in 2012, when we approved the budget, they found that it was insufficient. And then they come back to us in 2014. And now you're asking whether heads will roll. Well, they're coming back to us again That's what they're saying, and that's all they're saying. Well, this is the lowest bid. This is not their projection or just listening to hearsay. Elizabeth, you want to say something? Perhaps I should try to explain why we had a estimate in previously, 2012, and why there is a different estimate. In fact, there were more than one contract. In 2012, when we first came for application for funding, at the time, we based ourselves on the contracts then. But at the time, there was a contract 6, which was very big, and it involved tunneling work, there was no tendering process. It was in July of 2013 that we invited tender. So when you said whether the contractors would collude and swindle us for money and the LegCo, well, from the government's point of view, there would be no such incentive to swindle LegCo members for funding and then come back later on to apply for funding again. Well, a lot of colleagues have asked whether heads would roll if they come back again with another billions of increase to their estimate. So that's the import of your question. Now, James To, you have also pressed the well, you have also indicated a 4th round of questioning. 2 minutes. Mr. Chair, I think it was August 2012, those 12 months, we're coming to 2013 now. Do you completely not pay attention to the following? That is, the contractors may be colluding to swindle us. Well, I do not know whether the chairman had heard the answers before, but are they saying that they do not have evidence to show that there is collusion? And if the price comes out, the estimate comes out to be 3 times higher, we will still have to go ahead, and there is definitely no collusion. Is that the answer, yes or no? The Secretary, the government has a very sound tendering process. If you're talking about collusion among the contractor companies, that is a very grave accusation. I do not see any evidence of collusion. You're saying that there is no evidence. If I may raise an example, are you saying that the government had received no information concerning investigations of collusion or follow-up? Please. I'm sorry, I was not able to catch that question. Now, very simply, Mr. James To's question was that, do you have evidence of collusion? No, I have no evidence of any collusion. He's asking you whether there's any evidence. None. None. Mr. James To, all right. Let me be bold and ask the following question. The Secretary or the government going to the very highest level, have you thought about this? If you believe that there is no collusion whatsoever, let's take that as your basis. The 5th round then, Mr. James To, finish your question. You have 1 minute. Have you thought of holding it for the time? Put it aside for a period and see whether there is any possibility that these contractors were actually indeed colluding. And what if it increases by another few $1 billion, again, if there is that delay? Well, I just want to put this question to them. Well, Mr. Chairman, our view is that if we continue to delay this project, it will but raise the costs higher. Mr. Chairman, so you're thinking that the property companies are coming up with their performance reports now, and they can only go up and not go down the costs. Well, Mr. Chairman, I will have to look at the next few years. The construction activities would be high, and every year it will be like 200 billion, around that every year. Mr. Chairman, and what about facing the construction, facing the project over years? Mr. Chairman, I cannot answer that question at this point. At the peak time, it was about 90%. For public works, it is important and beneficial to Hong Kong's competitiveness and to the livelihood of the people of Hong Kong, and we will not put a brake to it. Mr. Leung? Well, we're talking about supply and demand. James Toh was talking about supply. How many suppliers are there in Hong Kong? Are there fewer and fewer of them, or more and more of them, these supplier companies? Or they are joining up as joint ventures? Among the 9 mega projects, how many companies are involved? Well, I used to work for the Japanese company, and then I worked for a French company, and now there are these Chinese PRC companies. The suppliers. Mr. Cheng, do you have that information? How many companies are there altogether engaged in this kind of projects? Mr. Chairman, according to our contract 6, I remember the first tendering, there were some 5 to 6 companies bidding. So there was competition. Now, if these are all PRC companies, they can suppress the price to swindle you. That's the point. Dr. Kwok Ka-ki, I'm looking at paragraph 11. It says that there will be $9.8 million saved. That's payment to Shenzhen government. And then there is another $9 million, which is savings. And I wonder whether this is all for Shenzhen. We are pushing ahead anyway, despite everything. And the government, it says, how do you arrive at this 9.8 million? Well, it is like getting a candy, but you lose out major. Well, this 9.8 million in direct payment to the Shenzhen is because over the Shenzhen River, we had to build 5 bridges. And underneath, the Shenzhen municipal government was engaged in works on the river itself. And because of the complications concerning the connection, at first we thought that the bridges on the river for the Hong Kong area part of it, we would leave it to or hand it over to the Shenzhen government for undertaking the construction. Now, in the past couple of years of planning, we believe that we, Hong Kong, will be able to take up that part of the work, that is for the bridges in the Hong Kong area, and therefore there are these savings. The 7th round, Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. Mr. Chairman, I formally request that the administration, provide the name list for all contractors for big projects or larger projects of the government in the past 7 years. I have reason to believe that the supply is being increasingly monopolized, and the demand side, if they go ahead with the projects irrespective, this is like sending food or sending goodies to the supplier side. If we do not plan ahead, and this is like the vaccination, if we do not plan ahead, of course, there will be costs overrun. I want to see the content of the contracts as well. Well, I think there may be some difficulty in providing the content of the contracts, but do you understand the request? Mr. Chairman, Mr. Leung is asking for big projects. Then I would think these are category C contractors. But if it's for the past 7 years, starting from 2008, I will have to take time to do it and staff and resources in order to compile that information. Of course, it can be done, but it would take resources. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, he's asking whether you want Category C works. Starting from 2008, is that right? You want all the contractors, the names. Can you provide the contracts as well, the content of the contracts to Mr. Leung? Elizabeth? Liantang related? Or is it 2008 to now? 9 core projects. The 9 core projects. Mr. Chairman, I think nobody mentioned the 9 core projects. My understanding is that for the past few years, the major works, those would be the Category C contractors, which can take up these major projects. Now, as for content of contracts, that would be difficult. We cannot provide that. Is it because the contract will not allow you to disclose that? I find it very difficult to hear you. If you say that you cannot provide the contracts, then that's it. Now, as for the contractors, a list of contractors, well, stop talking when I'm speaking. I cannot even hear myself. How long will it take to compile that name list? 2 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks. Fan Guowei. Now, Elizabeth Tse had said that the estimate was inaccurate in 2012, and she's saying they are coming here to plead us for the funding again. That is not true. You're not pleading, but you are giving us no choice but to give you the additional funding, giving us no choice, and that had been the new norm. It is because there are all these major mega projects for the government, and that's why the market costs for labor as well as materials have been shooting up. And I'm asking whether for some of the stages of work of Liantang can be delayed, so that for the cost of labor and materials as a result leading to this over budgeting, whether there is that possibility of phasing. Well, this question's been asked a number of times, Secretary. We cannot do so because the cost will overrun even higher, if that is the case. Any other questions, please? Dr. Cheung, third round, 3 minutes. Mr. Chairman, concerning monitoring, a lot of colleagues have pointed out that cost overrun is very grave indeed, and I see that there is a Shenzhen Hong Kong planning, that is a feasibility study, and that involved the Shenzhen municipal government and also the Hong Kong SAR government. My question is there this implementation team for the Liantang BCP project or other teams which are set up or participated in that for monitoring purpose that involve both the municipal government of Shenzhen and the Hong Kong SAR government? Yes, indeed. Now, for major projects involving Shenzhen and Hong Kong, we have a special committee looking at this BCP. And underneath this committee, there are other work groups to together monitor the progress, the design of the project. The name of the committee, please. It is a joint task force. And you're saying under the task force there are other work teams. Yes, it is a task force with work teams under it, with Hong Kong and Shenzhen government's participation. All right. This task force, if you will, does it have a terms of reference, and does it have the responsibility of monitoring the costs of these projects and the progress of these projects? Can you provide their terms of reference to us for these task forces? Well, there are a number of items. Yes, we can provide that after the meeting. So you're saying that these two committees and the task force have black and white terms of reference, and you can, after the meeting, provide to Dr. Cheung? Yes. Now, I would like to know whether the committee or task force will have do they have the responsibility of monitoring cost and budget overrun? Well, the governments, respectively, will have to monitor their own cost and estimates in their own areas, within their own boundaries. So this is not the task of the committee or the task force concerning our budget, Hong Kong's budget. Is that right? Correct. All right. Then what is the mechanism for monitoring the budget and cost overrun? Is there a work group? Okay. Who monitors our cost overrun? My department, Mr. Chair, is responsible for the construction of Lantang BCP, and therefore my department is responsible for monitoring. Thank you.
Any other questions from members? Take your time. I know that you would like to ask questions. Speaking for the 8th time, Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, 1 minute. I said that the one who wants it done. Well, have you done any overall assessment? Because you all work together to create a huge demand, and as a result, prices will increase. Have you done any studies? P.S. I think I have answered this question. With the CIC, the Construction Industry Council, we have been monitoring the volume of works, and of course, we keep an eye on the prices as well. I understand. Well, with that done, I still think, well, that means you have done poorly. Do you think so? As I said, when it comes to manpower, in the construction industry, there is pressure. We've been doing a lot of work to allay the pressure. Any other? Dr. Kwokaki, speaking for the 7th time, 1 minute. Another question for the PS. One of the main reasons for the hike in project cost is because there is no plan and no estimate, and they have simply pushed all these mega projects in the market at the same time. Have you considered according priority? We of course agree with building PRH units for the public, but we do not want to see white elephant projects that would waste money and time. So have you reviewed the work progress and tried to do something that is practical? Your boss, C.Y. Leung, has been saying that he's been doing a lot to improve people's livelihood, but I don't think that is the case. Dr. Kwok and colleagues, many of you have asked the same questions again and again. You've been asking about demand and supply, whether it's the work of the government, and then they have to come back to us to ask for more. The time should not be used in this way. You only have 1 minute, and yet you keep repeating the same question, and even if they have the time to answer, it will be the same answer. And this has been said many times, and please don't waste your time by asking the same question. Speaking for the 9th time, Leung Kwok Hong, 1 minute. I want to ask about the future. Well, the 3RS, the third runway system, is going to be implemented. And I see that this is the biggest project that I've seen in recent years. Do you think that as a result of the 3RS, it will further tip the demand? Is there any chance that the work of the 3RS will overlap with the existing projects? Have you done any assessment? Because we are talking about a project that will cost over $140 billion. P.S. Well, the volume of $200 billion a year has already included the 3RS. That means you already have this planned. So if it's included in the $200 billion, then that means you have taken everything into account. I want this on the record. Any other questions from members? Speaking for the... no, not Mr. Ray Chan, but Dr. Fernando Chan speaking for the fourth time. 2 minutes. Cost effectiveness. I asked about this before, and I noticed that the figures of cost effectiveness assessment done previously was different. The latest one is $64 billion, and when the 2010 prices was used, it was $50 billion. And I also see that back in 2008, well, there are altogether 8 contracts in the pipeline, and in 2008, the cost effectiveness for this project was only $14.3 billion, and the year was different. These 2 times, you said that it would be, 2030. So for the entire BCP project, there has been cost effectiveness assessment at different times. At the beginning, it was one figure, and now it's a different figure. And I want a list of all the different figures because I believe that the figures have been increasing. So I want to see. The latest one is about $64 billion. I don't need the latest one, but I need the previous ones. I'm happy to provide the figures, but I'd like to say that about the $14 billion, that was money of the day prices in 2007, and that $14.3 billion is over a period of 10 years only. Any follow-up? No. Mr. Ray Chan, speaking for the 7th time, 1 minute. I want to ask a fundamental question, and I don't know whether someone else has asked about it. And at the end of 2018, the project might not be completed because there are risks. Would the administration revise the estimate and give us something that is closer to the truth? We don't want to give you the funding only to have to a project that will be delayed. P.S. As we've said that the current contract will have a completion date at the end of 2018, but there is a term in the contract that it can be extended if there are special circumstances. So the completion date is supposed to be 2018. It is the end of 2018, but there are risks, great risks. So P.S. There will be great risks for end of 2018. Can you say that surely will be completed by 2020? P.S. Barring any exceptional circumstances, we think that it will be about early or middle of 2019. You can press the button again. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong speaking for the 10th time. Well, that means in 2020 it has to be done. You said that there will be an investment of $200 billion a year on infrastructure. That means you have foreseen this. And I have a question for you. You are on top of the entire situation, the demands and supply. So can I get an undertaking from you that you will not blame demand and supply in the future? You won't say that because there is an excessive demand, prices have been pushed up. He's been saying that he can't give you such an undertaking, and you've been asking the same thing. No, I wasn't even asking him to quit his job. Well, I've said it already. Members have been asking this very same question, and he will be saying giving the same answer. I don't need anything from him. I don't think I need anything from you because your time's up. Any other questions? Mr. Ray Chan, speaking for the 8th time, 1 minute. P.S. Please follow me. 2020, it will be delivered. Can you say that? I don't understand. What's the question? He asked you if you could say this after him. He wanted to be delivered in 2020. It's not a question. P.S. I'm sure you can understand my question. You said, well, there is a risk in 2018, but at most it will be delay of several months. So I now give you I now give you a lot of leeway, 2020. So it will be delivered in 2020 then. P.S. As I've said, when it comes to civil engineering, there is uncertainty. I can't give you 100% assurance. But the government said that, well, in 2018 it will be done. So it's about whether you're confident or not. And if you ask whether it will be done in 2069, he will still give you the same answer. I agree with you. Yes, you're very reasonable. But if you ask him to say it after you, well, he simply can't give you an undertaking. Any other questions from members? If there are no further questions, then we will put this item to a vote. First of all, I would like to put it to a vote. Sorry, speakers of mic.
冇委員問問題咧，咁我哋就去處理啲37A，因為我睇唔到有37A。
Well, we have to deal with 37A, and let's have a break of 15 minutes. And if you have any motions under 37A, please submit them so that we can deal with them all together. Let's have a break of 15 minutes.